Good evening. Thank you very much for attending tonight's EAP, Educational Skills and Employment. I've received apologies for absence from Councillors Irwin and Councillors Jelly. The minutes of the meeting...
Just Ben Smith's apologies as well.
And Ben Smith, apologies. The minutes of the meeting on the 22nd of November 2022, can I sign them as a true and accurate record? Perfect, I will do that virtually. And are there any declarations of interest?
I don't know what the agenda is.
Perfect. Well, item 4, it's the inspection of the Northamptonshire Children's Services Ofsted report. Now, I'm sure you've all read the Ofsted report, and we seem to have lost Anne-Marie again as well. So I don't propose to go through the report. What I propose to do is, if any of you have any questions or comments that you'd like to make about the Ofsted report, that might make it easier than going through the whole report. Needless to say, it was better. It was a lot better than it was previously, and there is a marked improvement, which is really, really good. You'll know that requires improvement, but there are next one is going up there to be good. So I've got Wendy first, please.
I'm just submitting Anne-Marie Dodds. I don't know if you want to hold on 1 minute for Anne-Marie to come back in.
I can, Jenny. Yeah, bear with me. Are you okay there, Anne-Marie?
Okay, sorry, I've dropped out a couple of times. What are we up to?
No problem. Okay, so we're on item 4, the inspection of the Ofsted report. I have said that we're not going to go through the report, but if anybody has any questions or comments that they want to make, then that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I don't know who was first, but Wendy and Lee, you've got your hands up. So Wendy, do you want to go first?
Thank you. Sorry, Alexa's going off at the same time. I just wanted to acknowledge really the improvement and that the vast improvement from last time. So I know it doesn't necessarily look good, but actually there has been a significant improvement, and it's good to see that the progress that's been made and that going forward, it's looking good.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. And I think in terms of what it looks like in the improvement plan, I think you've agreed with Colin that scrutiny will look at the improvement plan in the new year. So I think probably it's our reaction to Ofsted that's more important than what actually Ofsted says. So I think that improvement plan and the actions that are in there will be the really a milestone. We've got through the inspection, we've got the report in our hands. I think how we then galvanise the action around that onward journey, I think, is important. But
and it's good to, and I think it's important to acknowledge as well that staff know where we need to be and where we need to, what needs to be done, and I think that's really important. So I think just a well done to everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Wendy. Lee.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, thanks. So it's great to see. There's clearly a way to go. We would all accept that, but it is great to see the leap forward. And my experience with Ofsted is small. I deal with clients that go through it, but in my experience, the one of the big things that has to happen from going from inadequate to requires improvement is that we have to have safeguarding in place. So we have made that big leap now, and Ofsted, understand that we've got effective safeguarding. The next step up to good, typically from what I see, is all about process and paperwork, and I would expect that to take a while. Clearly, we are a new body almost, so we're certainly on the right path. It's a great big leap forward. So yeah, I think we all watch it. It'd be good to get it through to scrutiny, but I think we all watch now and see if we can make that next, big leap forward. But it's good improvement.
I think the significance, Lee is right, is that the children are safeguarded, and actually the answer is yes, which is absolutely what we want. Of course it is, it's fundamental. I think certainly my experience and what national reports would suggest is that the difference between an RI and a good authority, which is obviously our next part of our journey, is around consistency. And I think you can see right through the report that the inconsistencies come through in pretty much all areas. So I think that's significant, and that's significant in terms of next steps and getting that consistency. And I know conversations that I've had with colleagues and with members, certainly within North Northants, is that it's much easier to get consistency when you've got a tiny unitary authority and you get eyes on all of your social workers every day. And though we are a unitary now, we still have the footprint of some county authorities, and it's much more difficult across that broader geographical area to get the level of consistency that we would need to get, or we do need to get, and we will work towards, in terms of a good authority. But I think it's also significant to understand that the most difficult step, and it's recognised nationally to be the case, is the step out of inadequacy, because that bar to hit RI when you're an inadequate authority is recognised as much greater than any bar between any judgment in other gradings. So an RI to good does not have that gap that we have from an inadequate authority to an RI authority. So I know, we're not saying that we're celebrating our RI status, if you like. We are recognising that there is very much more work to do, but that highest leap, we've made it. So we can take some solace that we were going in the right direction, and we are where we would expect to be at this stage. But there's much more work to be done.
And I think it's important to say, actually, it's a good recognition of the staff as well, because I know that, a lot of the staff hated working in an inadequate authority, and that's possibly why we lost some staff as well, and found it a struggle to recruit staff as well, because nobody wants to work in an authority that failed. And I think actually having this required improvement now, hopefully, will encourage people to come back to the authority, because they can see that absolutely the processes are putting into place, and we are doing miles better than we have done in the past 10 years or so. So, and I think that's really positive in our campaign moving forward to recruit more people as well. So that's good as well.
If I can just add, Scott, as well, because we very much look at this as this was an inspection of the Children's Trust, but it wasn't entirely the Children's Trust here. There were, we, North Northants Council, run the virtual school on behalf of both North and West Northants, and we were described in there as ambitious, which is excellent. For Ofsted to say that you're ambitious is a real positive sign. So I think credit there to Charlotte and the team, so the virtual head and the team there, for the work that they've done, because again they've had to really dig in, and they've had to work hard over those last couple of years, particularly through COVID, because we couldn't, those children were all in school because they were vulnerable children. So they've worked it, with pace and with purpose throughout that whole period to ensure that the virtual school, still on the other side of this, is identified by Ofsted as being ambitious for children and doing well for children. And where there were challenges within the school system as well, that Ofsted were recognising that the virtual school were managing to manage that, which is positive. And then the other area really that came out really well, and you won't, I'm sure, have looked at, what does the West Northants report say, what does our report say, because there are some, there are minor differences, but there are differences. And the other area of difference was how we manage with our children who are electively home educated, how we manage our children who are permanently excluded. So the work that the education inclusion team do, the work that we've done around some of our SEND work, and yes, it wasn't a SEND inspection, but some of the education services across Northants came out well, their use of data, the management footprint on there. So all the elements of activity that you would want to see from our education services, as well as we provide them to our children who are known to social care, were really positive, and the feedback from Ofsted was positive. So I know that 97% as this is around the work that the Children's Trust and our social workers are doing, but they can't do it in isolation of our own education services. And I would, it would be remiss of me to overlook that.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Any other questions or comments? Dorothy, did you have something?
Yes.
Yes. I thought you might have done. That's why I asked.
Yes. Right. Well, first of all, actually, I've just spoken to 2 teachers tonight. And one thing that one of the teachers brought up tonight was that they think safeguarding has gone too far. They're now saying that teachers are having to do 8 hours of safeguarding, which is ridiculous. On top of that, Bishop Stopford, which is a school which has always had, I describe as high standards and you'd never get in, actually has been downgraded this week by Ofsted. And the reason for it is safeguarding. And if one of the things that was brought up tonight was that where you have, say you had a trough of water outside, which was part of the science lesson, right? Ofsted is saying that this water outside in this trough has to be covered up during playtime. Now, this isn't a big trough of water. This is just a very minute trough of water. And I just think that with safeguarding, I think on this occasion, given the fact that these 2 teachers were experts, I think they're experts, they're experienced anyway, but they're saying that Ofsted seriously have taken this too far. And
Dorothy, I will stop you there. I mean, I think you're talking about a school's personal Ofsted inspection as opposed to the authorities.
No, I'm just saying generally, it's in paper,
No,
but
Dorothy, can I, sorry, Scott, as
Yeah.
well, I don't mean to come across, and Dorothy, I don't mean to come across you, but I would be concerned about any teacher that told you they were concerned about the amount of safeguarding they had to do, because working together tells us, and I think we all abide by, that safeguarding is everybody's responsibility.
that's
So
right.
I would have some serious concerns about any school where there is concerns about the amount of safeguarding I have to do, and perhaps we could maybe follow this up with a separate conversation, because if schools are upset about safeguarding, then I'm very, very concerned.
Well, I think the thing is, it's not only what's being said, but it's also in the paper about how Ofsted are going about. Anyway, my next question is, in the actual report, I gather it was saying that last Christmas, we shouldn't have employed yourself, Anne-Marie. We should not have split up with the West. Now, I feel that is wrong.
I don't remember seeing the report saying you shouldn't have employed me, Dorothy, but maybe they deleted that paragraph when they sent it to me.
Fine. So, I mean, I think the West is sort of criticising us for doing what we do. But what I would like to say, you're saying about children who are excluded and school. One thing that does crop up, one thing they are missing out is the whole curriculum. That where they're being put into these what you call excluded schools. One's in Thrapston. They're not necessarily meeting the needs of these children. Would you agree?
Dorothy, we're talking about the ILAC's inspection report.
So that doesn't apply.
We're not talking
we're
about.
talking about we're talking about the Ofsted report, Dorothy, not about excluded children and their education.
Okay, fine. Sorry.
But absolutely, we can look at excluded children at another meeting and prepare a report with all that information in it.
Yeah.
So that's not a problem. But we're just looking at the Ofsted report that happened. It came out in October, the end of October, which was fairly good news for us.
Yeah, I think it was good. Do you see? I mean, one thing that we discussed today, actually, Scott, at this meeting this morning, was the fact that there's never enough money to meet the needs of children with extra needs or extra support and so forth. Did you think that they took this on board, that children?
Well, Ofsted will follow their guidelines that they have. So, you know, all Ofsted inspections are pretty much based on the same guidelines. And that's Ofsted. We can't change those guidelines. That's a government department, and they'll look at every school and every authority in the same way that they do that. So,
yeah, I mean, have we, in regards to Ofsted, have we actually, whilst they're quite happy, well,
they're not happy because it requires improvement, isn't it? And so within that, so we've created a plan to move that forward. So by the next inspection, our ambition and our goal is to be good.
And what plan is this?
So that I can send that to you as well. It is in the report, but I know you said you've not received it, but we can forward that. We could forward that to you. That's not a problem. And that will list that lists the concerns and the improvements that Ofsted would require us to do to be a good authority.
Right. And when you were saying about staffing, what areas are we at the present moment lacking in?
So we're still talking about Ofsted. So we're not we're not talking about.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
So we're not talking about staffing levels or anything. We're just talking about the Ofsted report.
Right. Did they mention staffing levels? That's what I meant to say. No. I'm interested. That was all.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Have you seen a copy of the report,
Dorothy?
No, I haven't.
No,
Dorothy,
you've not seen a copy of the Ofsted report.
Dorothy, yes, you have, because I sent you the link to it before I went on holiday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I can send it again to you, no problem. And you can have a good read of it over the Christmas period.
Oh, yes, of course, I would like to do that, actually.
Yeah, I will do that this evening for you, Dorothy, no problem. Okay, so I think we're going to move on then to item 5, which is the disaggregation of the Joint Sensory Impairment Service and the establishment of a new operating model. So this was discussed and approved this morning at executive. We Anne-Marie, I'm going to pass that just to you, just to give us a brief synopsis.
Thanks, Scott. So sensory impairment. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to just mute, Dorothy?
Me?
Just mute, so I'm getting background noise from you, that's all.
Are you? I don't think there's no background noise there. Oh, hold on, I need to put my thing on.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Sensory Impairment Service is a service that we have been running on behalf of North and West Northants. Highly specialist service that delivers intervention, service and support to children and young people who are both visually and hearing impaired across schools across North and West Northants. We have been approached in the last 18 months, certainly since I've been in Northants, by other local authorities who want to purchase the service from us because it has a strong reputation, and because of the highly specialist nature of it, it is difficult, if not almost impossible these days, for other local authorities to secure the services that they wish. Rather than go for a straightforward disaggregation, as in 56-44 split or 50-50 split, whatever the agreement is, that would have placed some elements of those services at risk, which would have also brought a risk to the local authority from pressure groups, and rightly so, if we reduce the quality of services that are available to children and families. Sorry. So what we proposed previously to the Joint Shared Services Committee and to exec is that we look at a model which would be a wholly owned model by Northants, whereby we could trade the service, and we would have in place commissioning arrangements with West Northants as a client, if you like, and then we could also leave that service available to other people, other local authority areas that wanted to purchase from us. So the proposed new model is that we run run that service, and that with effect from, I think it's April next year. Sorry, my COVID brain is not serving me well this evening. That we will run that service. In order to manage the risk of commissioning, there would be an 18-month break clause in any of those commissioning arrangements, which protects both us as the employer and deliverer of those services, but also anyone who wishes to purchase those services from us, so that they know they always have surety of at least 18 months, which covers at any given point 1 full school year for pupils. So either local authority or schools would have sufficient time in terms of a full school year to make different arrangements should that be required. And I'm happy to take any questions, because I know this has been around the loop a few times.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. And I think it's important to say as well that the service is highly recommended as well. We've got some really experienced staff that do a lot for some of our most vulnerable children with hearing and sight issues. And I think absolutely this is the right move to do this, because we do not want to hinder anything to stop this helping those children that really do need it. Okay, any questions or comments? Dorothy.
I actually did speak to you about this morning, Scott. What I would like, I did. I have a suggestion actually, in order that people with, particularly the people with sight impairment, Anne-Marie, if you've got one child in one school, another child in another school, I'm talking about secondary now, not infants or juniors. But is there any way, because clearly what I looked at your report this morning was that the children would like to have the same person coming in to help them. Now, is there a possibility that you could have, in order that they meet the whole curriculum, that they could, because at the moment they can't be meeting the whole curriculum, and would it be possible to perhaps have some joined up thinking where you say you had 3 children in 3 different schools, you could actually join them up for different lessons. They could have it in one school or the other school, depending on what it is. But as it stands at the moment, some subjects are not fully met, are they, at the moment, with the children? Therefore, I'm only assuming now, therefore I think that the children are either taken out of the class and put into what I would call a special needs hub for that lesson, and not them joining in with the children. Is there a possibility of having joined up thinking whereby they should be treated like everybody else and do all the curriculum.
Dorothy, I think we're discussing the model, the operating model, essentially the sensory impairment service. I can't comment on how schools commission support for their children. That's a matter for the schools. We are, more broadly, when we're talking about children with education, health and care plans, and children with additional needs, children that send support, we're looking at networks of schools to work together to address the needs, best meet the needs of those children. So I think it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on what schools are alleging does or doesn't happen without the evidence, I think,
The show.
of the details. So I think if there are specific questions, I know there are locality meetings set up now for all of the schools. I've attended 2 rounds of those so far. And I know Nicola Jones is doing a lot of work with networks of Senkos and other groups so that they're working in the way that the government want us to work, which is certainly at a peer and sector-led school-to-school level support. So I think, there is merit in some of the suggestions that you make, but I think they don't relate to this paper or to this operating model at this stage.
Do you think
Thank you, Anne-Marie. So,
Magic-
Dorothy, yes, so it certainly can look into that and look at that. I guess each child can be very different as well, depending on their EHCP and their needs can be very different to each other. But we'll take your comments on board and certainly look into if we can do this or what can be done to do this.
I think one of the things which at the end of your paper this morning was that some academies are choosing to work independently, whereas I think it would be more advantageous for the academies to study, to see how they could actually help other schools in meeting the curriculum. And you've got 1,000, I think it was 1,027 children who actually have either a hearing impairment or a sight impairment. So I think it's something that I realise that you are looking at it, but I clearly feel myself as a teacher, I think that I can see, and I've worked with schools, blind schools, I think that there is a need. I like the fact of having integration and children being in the classroom and all that. I just wonder if some of these children are not getting the whole curriculum, and that's all my thoughts really.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Dorothy. Absolutely, we will look at that. If we move on to item 6, which was the corporate parenting annual report, which was also considered this morning at executive and was approved at executive this morning. Anne-Marie, do you want to just give a brief synopsis? I know you're struggling. I'm really sorry.
No, it's all right, Scott. I think essentially it's the corporate parenting report. I think it recognises some of the achievements, some of the stories of our young people in there, and some of the things that we need to celebrate and recognise really as corporate parents. I think we, as you're aware, Scott, as the alternating chair with Councillor Baker in West Northants, that there's always more that we can do on corporate parenting as corporate parents, and that offer, that responsibility extends to all of us, not just to the Children's Trust, not just to officers, but also to members. But yes, it's the corporate and parent annual report. It's a celebration of some of the great things that have been achieved for our children. And I don't think there's anything more to say on it unless colleagues have got any questions.
No, that's fine, Anne-Marie. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Dorothy?
I like the idea where you actually meet up to discuss how they're actually meeting the needs of children. Do you have an issue whereby you don't have enough? Now, I don't know whether this comes into it, but foster parents, is there an issue where you can't place everybody either in fostering or to be adopted? Is there an issue here?
Well, there's not an issue. I mean, obviously there is not enough foster carers, which is why we're currently on a huge recruitment campaign, because the best possible place for a child is either to be with their family or into a foster care home. But so that's why we're on a huge recruitment campaign to recruit more foster carers and adopters. But no child is ever left unattended, if that's what you mean. I mean, there are pressures. Obviously, if a child comes into care at 5 p.m. on a Friday evening, there are huge pressures in being able to get that child in, but they will always get a place to be looked after.
You think personally that, not now, but maybe before we became NNC, that there was an issue whereby you left children with foster carers and not necessarily got them adopted, but this halfway house sort of thing. You think now that you're a lot more on the ball about making sure that if the child is going to be adopted, that you don't leave them hanging around, as I say, without finding someone who's likely to adopt them? Do you think that that's become more evidence now?
Well, I think adoption is very different to fostering.
I know.
But what I can say is all foster carers and all adopters go through a rigorous process before that they can have a child placed with them. And I'm satisfied that this process is correct. And I'm satisfied that no children are never left unattended.
No, I'm not saying they're left unattended. What I'm saying is that I think the process, that you had a process in place, but you didn't necessarily, I think, if I was right in thinking, that you kept them too long without the next forward link of actually then getting them adopted, if that's what was planned for them. I think
it's very difficult, Dorothy, because adopters will go in with an age range in mind, or a sex of a child in mind. So it's very difficult for perhaps some children or some age ranges to be adopted more than others. I can see Wendy's got a hand raised.
Do you want me to come in?
Thank you, Wendy. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I just think we should welcome the inclusion of young people who come and participate in the board, because they really have a lot to offer and help the board. And it's very good to see that 2 young people actually sit on the board now permanently. So that's great. And I think it would be good to, well, it's very good to see that the success of our young people in care are regularly celebrated by the board, so that's good.
Thank you, Wendy, and I think you're absolutely right. And I actually sat in on the interviews for these 2 new people to come in, and they're actually amazing people, and they have a lot to offer, and they absolutely challenge us when it needs challenging, and that's great to have them there. And the successes we've actually recently just changed, because it used to be at the bottom of the agenda. Now it's at the top of the agenda, because actually we should be celebrating, the achievements, and what one achievement is for one person could be very different to another child as well. So it's important to celebrate all those achievements, which is what we do.
Absolutely, across the board, regardless of whether you're in care or not. Great.
Absolutely, yeah, yes. Thank you for that, Wendy. Okay, so we move on to item 7, which is the forward plan of executive items. Jenny, are you doing this? I noticed Callum's gone. I think.
Hang on. So Ben's just he said he'd highlight the children's services reports that are in the executive forward plan and ask members and officers if they want to add them to the EAP forward list of items. And then for the forward list of items report, he says there's only 2 regular items, update on SEND and update on family hubs on the agenda for January. So they might want to add something to it to flesh it out a bit.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'll work with Anne-Marie and Ben, and we'll add another item. With the family hubs is quite a big, meaty item. So that will have a lot to talk about in a report. So we'll get those forward for the January meeting. And yes, thank you for that, Jenny. Which means item 9 is to close the meeting. So thank you very much for your attendance tonight. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I will see you all very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
Well done,
Take
Chair.
care.
Well done,
Happy
Anne-Marie.
Christmas, everyone.
Can you give us a date of the next meeting?
I will email it to you. It's in the diaries, but I'll email it with everything else to you, Dorothy.
I've got it down as the 2nd of February.
It is the 2nd.
Thank you, Wendy. Lee. Yes. 2nd of February, Dorothy.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Take care. Good
Merry
night.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.